Imagine your life as a timeline. It's a collection of decisions, big and small, that shape who you are. There's always the question of what would have happened if I did something different, or what if? Even Marvel is asking those questions. Not only what if Agent Carter was actually given Captain America's serum, but also what if the last phase of MCU didn't suck so badly? Wait, no, sorry, not the topic of the video. The whole premise of The Alters is based on that what if, but to be honest, it's so much more than that. And since the game was first announced almost 3 years ago, no single marketing material could tell me what exactly is the point of this game. I was recently invited by 11-bit Studios to Warsaw to play The Alters for about 6 hours, talk to the developers behind it, and finally find an answer to my question, what the hell is this game all about? Spoiler, I did find my answer, and I like what I found. Let's begin. 11-bit Studios has a unique set of games in their portfolio. You have This War of Mine about the lives of civilians during war, you have Frostpunk in which you govern a city in the face of an imminent natural disaster, Frostpunk 2 takes that story forward to speak more about human nature, and then there's The Alters, a game that I honestly never got the full picture of. There was information out there that I was trying to piece together into something complete, but the puzzle never really fit. After those 6 hours with the game, I think I finally understand how it all should intertwine. We have a story concept that feels a bit like the book and the movie based on it called The Martian. The main gimmick in this game, creating alternative versions of the main character, works a bit different than I actually expected. The focus of the narrative is in a different place than the trailers told me over the years, and gameplay itself is a mix of survival with resource management. And do you remember the first comparisons to Fallout Shelter? I don't think they're actually that spot on because they create this very different image of what The Alters is. And this means we have to dissect all of these elements, and hopefully by the end of this video, you will be excited about The Alters. Because I finally am.
Wait, why are you? What the fuck is going on here?
Now, I need to warn you, in order to be able to talk about this game, I will have to spoil things from the prologue of the game. If you want to get into this game completely blind, I recommend you stay away from this video, even though it'll be sad to see you leave. No spoilers regarding the story from both Act 1 or 2 though, so don't worry. In The Alters, you play as Jan Dolski, and another Jan Dolski, and actually one more Jan Dolski. And 8 more Jan Dolskis at some point or another, but I'll get to that a bit later. You find yourself stranded on a distant planet, your crew is gone, and the only thing that can help you survive is the mobile base that I'm really surprised is not sponsored by Pirelli. Jan Dolski is not a heroic captain, he's not some savior destined to do great things, he was just a regular worker sent on a mission that went wrong. The task was to find Rapidium, an element that is supposed to be a source of all the good things that will happen to humanity once it's brought back to Earth. Jan actually has his own detailed backstory that you will be able to get to know really quickly in the game because it's tied to the most unique mechanic the game has. So, just like in The Martian, Jan Dolski tries to find his way home even though he's all alone. But instead of growing potatoes and fertilizing them with his feces, our protagonist finds the Rapidium thingy, and that helps him grow his own help. Here comes the what if part. With the help of Rapidium, Jan is able to access his life's memories uploaded to a quantum computer on board of the mobile base. There you will see the life choices he made. This is the path that led him to who he is right now, but it means that if different choices were made, his path would look different too. And this is the way you'll get help. You'll find a point on the timeline that is good for branching out Jan's life. As a result of this branching, you'll end up with a different human being with a different skill set that you then artificially grow. It's not really a clone, it's an alternative version of Jan who believes to be equally real as the main protagonist and who has the memories of the things that actually never happened. And those are the alters from the title. The lives of the alters is where the strength of the narrative lies in this game. It's so much closer to This War of Mine in the way of storytelling than I actually expected, and that's exactly because you have a limited number of characters, each with their own lives, own problems, and the biggest issue of all, that they're not necessarily real. It's not a merry band of people who love each other from the get-go, they're not a weird bunch of siblings. This is actually a group of strangers whose lives went in often contradictory directions, and they're not real lives. Very often when you speak with these characters, they will react differently even if you approach them in the same manner. So you will have to learn to communicate properly with your alters in order to be able to convince them of your plans or to fulfill your requests. From what I've seen in terms of storytelling so far, this is 11-bit Studios in a really great narrative form, and I can't wait to explore all the possibilities that having 11 Jans offer. As a side note, it has to be said that Alex Jordan, the voice of Jandolski, did an amazing job. Imagine voicing 11 characters who, in their core, are the same person. You have 11 versions of the same character who need to have a common factor, but at the same time they have to be substantially different to fit the archetype of a character, be that a scientist, a technician, or a miner. At times you forget that all of these voices are done by the same actor, and it speaks to how masterfully it's done. So great job here.
The technology I need should be in the database somewhere. Oh, come on. We don't have forever. Let me talk to her. This arm is yours, not mine.
One thing that disappointed me a little bit is that I expected more from the branching system and creating alternative Jandolskis. While you have this general timeline of Jan's life, I thought creating the alters meant you will have to search for the best outcome to fit your needs by trying out various configurations of these life choices. Unfortunately, the game clearly communicates which point is the branching point and what kind of alter you'll get as a result. While I understand why that decision was made, and that's for the purpose of smooth storytelling and having fleshed out characters, it still feels a bit underwhelming. I think there's a lot more potential in this idea as a game mechanic, so I hope the studio actually gets to tackle it some more in the future, maybe as a DLC or patching it to make it more hardcore. I don't know. Now, gameplay in the alters is layered. While your main task is just to get your base going in the direction away from the incoming sun that would result in your death, there's lots of things that you'll have to do to make it happen. In the first act, you'll encounter a river of lava, and I'm saying this only because it was revealed in the trailer, so don't worry, no big spoilers. You then have to figure out a way to cross it with the whole base. Since you're able to communicate with Earth and other employees of the corporation that sent you there, you will sometimes have to do tasks for them that will hinder your progress, but are theoretically necessary to proceed. Your alters will have their own opinions on your actions, and things are getting stranger and stranger with every passing day. Rupidium and its effects are not the only weird thing on the planet. You will also encounter anomalies that can hurt you or that bend space-time, resulting in a different flow of time when you're in the area of effect. Things be crazy. In order to do your tasks, you will need resources. As a player, you're able to walk around maps and scan specific marked areas of it in search of resources, and then you can mine these. You do that either yourself or by assigning other alters to do your job. Different alters have various perks, so some people are better suited for certain kinds of jobs, be that mining outside or other tasks within your base. The design of maps is fixed, and it's more like a set of corridors that lead you to places just like the devs wanted it in order to control your pacing. The game does that by making something accessible only once you research upgrades or craft items that allow you to progress through these obstacles, like a climbing hook or a drill that needs a freshly crafted charge after each use. The design is pretty good. I indeed felt like it was nicely paced, and while there are mandatory objectives that you have to do, there is a place for exploration to find some optional content that may, for example, improve your relationship with your alters. You can even find luggage that somehow got lost, and it may contain a movie that you can watch with your crew. I actually watched an animated movie about the history of Earth in a game. You can actually play beer pong. This is a truly complete experience. Speaking of things you can do in your hideout, let's talk about the mobile base itself. You start with a set of rooms, but you will have to expand your base by putting new things in there, like a research lab or a greenhouse to grow your own food. As the game progresses, you can also expand the available space to put your rooms in. During the day, you will constantly have to send your alters to do tasks in a specific room, as is required by whatever you set yourself to accomplish. Because no, you will not have enough alters to cover everything at the same time. There's one detail that I actually really loved regarding tasks here. Whenever your alter finishes a task and there's still something else to be done in the base, you get a prompt next to their portrait asking if he should take care of the thing that is still queued to do during the day, and you answer with a simple yes/no on a keyboard. Amazing stuff because it lessens the chance of forgetting that there's things to do and your companions are out there idle doing nothing. So yeah, it's a super small thing, but I love it. The survival aspect of the game is pretty simple. Every day the clock is ticking, you can easily work between 7 AM and 8 PM. At 9 PM heavy radiation starts that hits you hard if you stay outside. Also, at that point in time, you're in a fatigued state, meaning tasks take longer to do than during the day, so you need to be mindful of what you do and how long it will actually take. The radiation is your enemy not only while exploring the planet, but your base also needs to have a steady supply of radiation filters. There's energy that your character has that is used, for example, for climbing, and that can be replenished either at your base or at mining outposts. Food just simply has to be supplied in the base so that every day your alters can eat, so this is pretty easy. Generally, survival is pretty straightforward. It's the resource management that might be a bit more tricky. For example, you have to wonder, is it worth wasting resources on building additional miners and pylons to connect them to your base? Or maybe you'll just move your one miner to a different resource point. Is it worth building additional storage for all the materials? Also, the heavier your base gets, the more it costs to move it to the next location, so you need more resources. Yeah, you need to keep track of how much you spend on what, because while miners theoretically don't run out of resources, you might run out of time before the sun catches up to you. I like the fact that the game has you think a little bit about that, but at the same time it's not overly complicated and it's not unnecessarily annoying, not taking your attention away from the narrative. The art style and generally the visual direction of the game hits the intended spot. It's a mix of dark alien spaces with the slick corporate design of prefabricated rooms in your base. Then add to that the unusual color scheme that you can see in the key art for the game with all the ions, and you get something unique. The graphics itself I'd call, well, good enough. It's nothing spectacular, but in this case I don't really think it had to be in any way groundbreaking. Also, I don't know if it's the case of the build that we played, but something weird was happening with the lighting and edges of characters during conversations which were a bit out of proper sharpness. You can probably see it on screen right now. Hopefully this is something that still gets addressed before release. Even if it's just a minor detail, this just kept grabbing my attention all the time. It's a bit irritating. The music works really well, it's exactly what you'd expect from a sci-fi setting, and it's done by Piotr Musiał, who previously worked on Frostpunk, This War of Mine, Diablo 4, and The Witcher 3 Blood and Wine, among others. Also, there's a cool surprise in the game, but I'm not saying a word about it. Just know that it's connected to music, and you will stumble upon it as you play. When I talked to the team at the event, they said that the game actually grew bigger in time. They started with the idea of this game being a bit over a dozen hours, but apparently it's substantially more than that. However, don't expect the alters to be like a 100 hours long game. It's still a contained story that needs to have its proper pacing without sidetracking the player. For the 6 hours that I played the game, I really enjoyed what I saw, so I really hope that all the additional time I'll be putting into the alters will be equally enjoyable. Oh, and one thing I should probably mention, you won't be able to get all 11 yawns during a single playthrough, so the game is potentially replayable with a very different experience thanks to people you create along the way. Okay, so trying to wrap it up, we generally have a game that in its DNA has an 11-bit studios approach to telling stories about individuals that have you reflect on life. It's not necessarily as heavy as This War of Mine, but it's much closer to this game than Frostpunk is, and you can feel it from a mile away. One thing that differs this game from the previous ones though, is that you don't fail as much in the alters. In This War of Mine and in Frostpunk, you had your ass handed to you constantly, and here I managed to always keep my alters fed and reasonably satisfied with their current situation. I think that here the devs just decided that they should prepare you more for the challenge ahead and not necessarily teach you by making mistakes and punishing you. Gameplay-wise, the devs don't really try to invent something groundbreaking. The gameplay feels like it's here to serve the story rather than the other way around, but if you like what the studio did previously in terms of their own games, you should be happy about what's coming in less than a month. The Alters is actually coming to PC and consoles, and it's also coming day one on Game Pass, so if you're subscribed to that, definitely give this game a try, especially if you like an interesting narrative. So how would I try to explain the Alters in a short form to all the people who are still trying to figure out what the hell is this game? Well, it's a very unique project, some would even call it experimental, in which you try to survive by creating alternative versions of the main character, having to gather and manage resources while running away from an imminent danger that you may also find not only behind you, but actually ahead of you. It's a game about what-ifs, full of questions, providing only some answers. A game about determination, hopelessness, anger and joy, regrets, and making the best out of the cards that you've been dealt. And it has a cute sheep, so come on, you can't say no to that. Thank you for watching. Take care.